My ex-fiancée, who ghosted me, showed up years later, demanding custody of my child. I need to preface this by saying that what happened was a whirlwind, and I'm still reeling from the audacity of it all. I'm seeking advice, but honestly, I think I just need to vent this entire saga out into the ether, hoping someone out there can tell me I'm not crazy. 3 years ago, my life was, by all accounts, perfect. I was engaged to Sarah, the woman I thought was the love of my life. We had been together for 5 years, a steady, loving relationship that felt destined for marriage and a family. We had a beautiful home, good jobs, and a shared vision for our future. We were in the midst of planning our wedding, just a few months away, and Sarah had even started talking about baby names. I was on cloud 9 then. One Tuesday morning, I woke up to an empty bed. Sarah was gone. Her side of the closet was empty, and a small, hastily written note was taped to the bathroom mirror. It simply said, "I can't do this. I'm sorry. Don't try to find me." My world imploded. There were no arguments, no signs of trouble, nothing. Just gone. I tried everything. I called her phone repeatedly, but it went straight to voicemail. I drove to her parents' house, but they claimed they hadn't seen or heard from her. Her friends were equally bewildered, or so they claimed. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. I filed a missing person report, but after a few weeks, the police told me that as an adult, she had the right to disappear if she chose to. My heart was shattered. The pain was immense, a gaping wound that refused to heal. For months, I was a wreck. I barely ate, I couldn't sleep, and my work suffered. My friends and family were incredibly supportive, but nothing could truly ease the profound sense of betrayal and loss. I eventually sold our house, a constant reminder of what we had, and moved into a small apartment. I needed a fresh start, a way to rebuild my life from the ashes. About a year after Sarah disappeared, I met Emily. She was kind, funny, and incredibly understanding. She knew about my past, and she didn't shy away from it. Slowly, cautiously, I began to open my heart again. Emily was everything I needed. She helped me laugh again, she brought joy back into my life, and she made me believe in love again. We fell deeply for each other, and our relationship blossomed beautifully. A year and a half into our relationship, Emily became pregnant. We were overjoyed. It was a planned pregnancy, a testament to our commitment and our shared dream of building a family. We spent months preparing for the baby's arrival, decorating the nursery, attending prenatal classes, and dreaming of our future as parents. Our daughter, Lily, was born 8 months ago, and she is the light of our lives. She is a happy, healthy, and beautiful baby, and I couldn't be more in love with her and Emily. We are a family, a complete unit, and I've never been happier. Now, for the part that has thrown my entire life into chaos, last week, I received a certified letter from a law firm. I opened it, my heart pounding with a sense of dread. It was from Sarah, or rather, from her lawyer. The letter stated, in no uncertain terms, that Sarah was seeking joint custody of Lily. I nearly dropped the letter. My first thought was that it was a sick joke, a terrible mistake. Sarah had no connection to Lily. She had no idea Lily even existed. How could she? She had been gone for 3 years. I immediately called Emily, my voice trembling as I read her the contents of the letter. She was just as shocked and bewildered as I was. We reread the letter together, scrutinizing every word. It claimed that Sarah was the biological mother of my child and that she had a right to be in Lily's life. This was utterly impossible. Lily is Emily's biological daughter. We have all the medical records, the birth certificate, everything to prove it. The only way Sarah could be Lily's biological mother is if she was Lily's biological mother. But that would mean a cold, horrifying realization washed over me. The timing. Sarah disappeared 3 years ago. Emily became pregnant a year and a half ago. Lily is 8 months old. I immediately contacted my own lawyer, a family friend who specializes in these kinds of disputes. I sent him the letter and explained the entire situation, my voice laced with a mixture of anger, confusion, and fear. He assured me he would look into it, but even he sounded taken aback by the sheer audacity of the claim. The next day, I received a call from Sarah's lawyer's office, requesting a meeting to discuss the custody arrangements. I refused, stating that my lawyer would be handling all communications. I told him that this claim was baseless and that my daughter was not Sarah's. Later that day, I received another call, this time from an unknown number. It was Sarah. Her voice was the same, but there was an edge to it I had never heard before. "We need to talk," she said, her tone cold and firm. "There's nothing to talk about, Sarah," I replied, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Lily is not your daughter." "Oh, but she is," she retorted, a chilling certainty in her voice. "And I have the proof." "What proof could you possibly have?" I demanded, my mind racing. "Lily is Emily's daughter. We have DNA tests, birth certificates, everything." "You're just going to have to trust me on this," she said, her voice dropping to a low, conspiratorial whisper. "But I have something that will blow your entire world apart." She hung up before I could respond. I was left staring at my phone, my heart pounding in my chest. What was she talking about? What proof could she possibly have? My lawyer called me back a few hours later. He had done some digging. Sarah had indeed filed a motion with the court, seeking joint custody, and she had presented some evidence to support her claim. The evidence, according to my lawyer, was a DNA test result that showed a 99.9% probability that Sarah was Lily's biological mother. My blood ran cold. This was impossible. It had to be. Emily was Lily's mother. I had seen her pregnant. I had been with her through the birth. There was no way. My lawyer, however, was grim. "These tests are usually pretty accurate," he said, his voice laced with concern. "We need to get to the bottom of this. Immediately." The next few days were a blur of panic and desperation. Emily and I spent hours talking, trying to piece together any explanation, any scenario that could make sense of this insanity. We went through every single detail of Emily's pregnancy, every doctor's visit, every test. Nothing. Everything pointed to Emily being Lily's biological mother. We scheduled an emergency appointment with our doctor, hoping for some explanation, some medical anomaly that could explain this bizarre situation. The doctor was as baffled as we were. He reviewed all of Emily's medical records, confirming that she had indeed carried and given birth to Lily. He assured us that scientifically, it was impossible for Sarah to be Lily's biological mother if Emily was, unless he brought up a rare, almost unheard of scenario, a mix-up at a fertility clinic. He asked if we had used any assisted reproductive technologies. We had not. Our conception was natural. He then cautiously brought up the possibility of a surrogate, but again, that was not our situation. The only other scenario, he explained, was a mistake at the hospital during birth. A baby swap. But Lily had been with Emily from the moment she was born, never leaving her side. We had photos, videos, everything to document Lily's birth and her immediate hours with Emily. The doctor suggested that the DNA test Sarah presented might be fraudulent, or perhaps a mix-up of samples. He recommended we get our own DNA test done, as quickly as possible. We did. The results came back a few days later, confirming what we already knew in our hearts. Emily was Lily's biological mother, and I was Lily's biological father. Armed with our own DNA results, my lawyer immediately filed a counter-motion, requesting the court to dismiss Sarah's claim and to sanction her for filing a fraudulent claim. He also requested that Sarah be ordered to undergo a DNA test, administered by a court-appointed independent lab. The court granted our request. A hearing was scheduled for the following week. The day of the hearing arrived, and I was a nervous wreck. Emily and I sat on one side of the courtroom, my lawyer beside us, a stack of documents in front of him. On the other side sat Sarah, looking surprisingly composed, alongside her own lawyer. She hadn't aged a day, but her eyes held a cold, determined glint that sent shivers down my spine. The judge called the case, and Sarah's lawyer began to present her case, reiterating the supposed DNA evidence. He presented a slick, professional-looking report, complete with graphs and charts, all pointing to Sarah as Lily's mother. Then it was my lawyer's turn. He calmly presented our own DNA results, clearly showing Emily as Lily's biological mother. He also presented all of Emily's medical records, detailing her pregnancy and the birth of Lily. He meticulously dismantled Sarah's claim, pointing out the impossibility of her being Lily's biological mother given the irrefutable evidence of Emily's pregnancy and birth. He then presented our request for Sarah to undergo a court-ordered DNA test. Sarah's lawyer objected vehemently, claiming it was an invasion of her privacy and that her existing DNA test was sufficient. But the judge, seeing the clear contradiction in the evidence, overruled the objection. He ordered Sarah to submit to a DNA test within 48 hours, administered by a court-appointed facility. Sarah's face, which had been so composed throughout the hearing, finally cracked. A flicker of panic crossed her features. After the hearing, as we were leaving the courtroom, Sarah confronted me. "You won't get away with this," she hissed, her voice low and venomous. "Lily is my daughter. You stole her from me." "You're delusional, Sarah," I replied, my voice firm despite the tremor in my hands. "You abandoned me. You disappeared. Emily is Lily's mother, and you have no claim whatsoever." "You think so?" she sneered, a wicked glint in her eyes. "You think you know everything? You have no idea what I went through. You have no idea what I sacrificed." I just stared at her, utterly bewildered. What was she talking about? What sacrifice? What did any of this have to do with Lily? The next 48 hours felt like an eternity. Emily and I tried to go about our normal lives, but the tension was palpable. We constantly worried about what Sarah would do next, what other lies she would try to spin. Finally, the results of Sarah's court-ordered DNA test came in. My lawyer called me immediately. "The results are back," he said, his voice flat. "And they confirm what we already knew. Sarah is not Lily's biological mother." A wave of relief washed over me, so powerful it almost brought me to my knees. It was over. This nightmare was finally over. But then, my lawyer continued, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "However, there's something else. Something disturbing." "What is it?" I asked, my heart pounding again. "The DNA test that Sarah submitted to the court," he explained. "It's not hers. The DNA sample belonged to a woman named Samantha Jones. And that woman, she had a baby that was born approximately 8 months ago at a hospital in a neighboring state." My mind reeled. Samantha Jones? Who is that? "We don't know yet," my lawyer admitted. "But what we do know is that Sarah deliberately presented a fraudulent DNA test result to the court, claiming it was hers. And she used it to try and gain custody of your child." He then dropped another bombshell. "Furthermore, my initial investigation into Sarah's whereabouts over the past 3 years has revealed something quite interesting. It seems she wasn't completely gone. She's been in contact with her family, albeit sporadically, and she's been living under a different name for a significant portion of that time. Her parents have been covering for her, claiming they had no idea where she was." The pieces of the puzzle, horrifying as they were, slowly began to click into place. Sarah hadn't just disappeared. She had orchestrated an elaborate deception, and her parents were complicit. But why? Why Lily? My lawyer informed me that the judge was absolutely furious about the fraudulent DNA test and the attempt to deceive the court. He had immediately issued an order for Sarah's arrest on charges of perjury, fraud, and attempted kidnapping. The police arrested Sarah at her parents' house later that day. I didn't get to see her, but I imagine it wasn't a pleasant experience for her. Her parents, who had consistently denied any knowledge of her whereabouts for 3 years, were reportedly in shock and outrage, claiming they had been manipulated by their own daughter. I found it hard to believe. The next day, a detective called me, asking me to come in for a statement. Emily and I went together, recounting the entire bizarre story, from Sarah's sudden disappearance to her audacious attempt to claim custody of Lily. The detective revealed some startling information. It turned out that Samantha Jones, the woman whose DNA Sarah had used, was indeed a real person. She had given birth to a baby girl 8 months ago, but tragically, the baby had passed away shortly after birth due to unforeseen complications. The detective also revealed that Samantha Jones had been a patient at the same fertility clinic where Sarah had briefly volunteered during her disappearance. The detective explained that Sarah, in her time volunteering at the clinic, had apparently gained access to patient records and had even managed to steal a DNA sample from Samantha Jones, who had undergone fertility treatments before conceiving naturally. It seems Sarah had meticulously planned this whole scheme, waiting for the right moment to strike. Her motive, the detective explained, was rooted in a deep-seated jealousy and a desperate desire for a child. During her 3-year disappearance, Sarah had apparently struggled with infertility and a series of failed relationships. When she learned, through mutual acquaintances, that Emily and Di were expecting a baby, something snapped in her. She became obsessed with the idea of having a child and, in her twisted mind, convinced herself that she deserved Lily. She had even convinced herself that the child was hers in some abstract, cosmic way, given her past relationship with me. The stolen DNA sample from a woman who had tragically lost her own child was a morbid detail in her elaborate plan. The police also revealed that Sarah's parents had indeed been aware of her whereabouts and had been providing her with financial support during her disappearance. They claimed they were protecting their daughter and that they believed her story about being the rightful mother of my child, despite the clear evidence to the contrary. They were also now facing charges for obstructing justice and aiding and abetting. The entire thing was a horrifying display of manipulation, deceit, and outright malice. Sarah, the woman I had once loved and planned to marry, had turned into a calculating, desperate individual, willing to destroy our lives to achieve her twisted goals. The legal proceedings are still ongoing. Sarah is currently out on bail, but she's facing serious charges. Her parents are also facing legal repercussions. We have a restraining order against Sarah, keeping her far away from us and, most importantly, far away from Lily. Emily and I are still trying to process everything. The emotional toll has been immense. We are constantly looking over our shoulders, wondering if Sarah will try something else. We are seeking therapy to cope with the trauma of it all, and to ensure that this never impacts Lily's sense of security and well-being. Our little family, once so peaceful and joyful, has been rocked to its core. But through it all, our love for each other, and for our precious daughter, has only grown stronger. We are fiercely protective of Lily, and we will do everything in our power to keep her safe from this deranged woman. I just can't fathom how someone could be so cruel, so utterly devoid of empathy, to attempt such a horrific act. To try and steal a child, to lie and manipulate, all for a twisted fantasy. It's beyond comprehension that I guess I'm just looking for validation. Has anyone ever experienced anything remotely similar? How do you move on from something like this? How do you trust again, knowing that someone you once loved could betray you in such a profound and sickening way? I feel like I need to constantly watch my back, and I hate that feeling. I want to go back to feeling safe and secure in my own home, with my family. But how? How do you erase the image of your ex-fiancé, a person you trusted completely, attempting to steal your child? It's a terrifying thought that keeps me up at night. Damn, my lawyer assures me that Sarah's case is strong, and that she will likely face significant consequences for her actions. He's confident that she will never be able to come near Lily again. But that doesn't erase the fear, the anger, the profound sense of violation that we are holding onto each other, Emily, Lily, and I. Our bond has become unbreakable through this ordeal. We know that we have to be strong for Lily, to provide her with a stable and loving environment, free from the shadows of Sarah's madness. But it's a long road ahead, filled with healing and rebuilding. I just hope we can get through it and finally find peace.